I stood there, shocked, as flames swallowed my wedding dress. The beautiful ivory gown that took 7 months to make was now burning into a black, melted mess. In front of me stood Hannah James, my soon-to-be mother-in-law, holding a lighter in her polished hand. Her face was twisted with anger and pride. "Now you can't marry my son," she shouted, her voice high and crazy. "Walter needs someone from our world, not some nobody from the poor side of town." She threw her fancy purse over her shoulder, looking very proud of what she had done. My name is Julie Powell, and at 26 years old, I never thought I would be standing there, watching my wedding dress burn just 40 minutes before the ceremony. My 3 bridesmaids stood frozen in place, their lavender dresses looking strange against the burned fabric at my feet. "Mrs. James," I said, my voice calm as I picked up my phone, "you have no idea what you just did." She laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. "What I did was save my son from making the worst mistake of his life. You think going to community college and working at a small ad agency makes you good enough for a James? Walter belongs with Cheryl Hines. Her father owns half of downtown Indianapolis." I pressed a button on my phone, keeping my eyes on her. Abigail, one of my bridesmaids, quickly opened a window to let out the smoke filling the room. Hannah waved her hand like it was nothing. "The wedding's over," she said. "I'll just tell everyone you got scared and ran away. Walter will be sad for a little while, but he'll get over it." "Are you sure about that?" I asked, turning my phone so she could see the screen. On it was a live video of the wedding area, the neat rows of white chairs, the flower-covered arch, and the big screen at the front. Right now, that big screen was showing everything happening in this room. Hannah setting my dress on fire, the smoke, and her angry face. Her face went pale. What is that?" she stammered. "The wedding live stream," I said. I spoke calmly. "The live stream has been running for the past 30 minutes. It's for Walter's grandparents in Tennessee and my sister, who is serving overseas. It's been showing everyone arriving, the musicians setting up." I paused and looked straight into Hannah's eyes. "And you, destroying my wedding dress and saying what you really think about me. Turn it off." Hannah screamed and jumped toward my phone, her fancy look falling apart. "You planned this. You set me up." Abigail stepped in between us. "Mrs. James, everyone just saw you commit a crime, setting a fire on live video. You might want to think carefully about your next move." My phone buzzed in my hand with new messages. Sophia, another bridesmaid, looked at the screen and gasped. "It's Walter. He's coming to the bridal suite." Hannah's face filled with panic. She quickly looked around the room, like she was trying to find a way to escape. "This isn't what it looks like," she said desperately. "I was just testing the fabric. Wedding dresses are supposed to be fireproof." Through my phone, we could hear the guests talking in shocked whispers. The live camera had shifted and now showed the crowd's reaction. Walter's father sat in the front row, looking cold and angry. Walter's best man was already running toward the building. But what caught my attention most was Walter himself. He wasn't standing at the altar anymore. He was running up the center aisle, his face full of shock and fury. "Julie," my bridesmaid Isabella whispered, "what are we going to do about the ceremony? Should we tell everyone to go home?" I looked down at my burned wedding dress, now just black scraps on the beautiful wooden floor. The smart, practical side of me, the side that worked 2 jobs to put myself through college, was already thinking about what to do next. "No," I said firmly. "The ceremony is still happening, just differently." Suddenly, the door burst open. Walter stood there in his tuxedo, his eyes going from my face to his mother, and then to the ruined dress. Behind him, the venue manager and his father came in, both looking horrified. Walter's voice was low and full of anger. "Mom," he said, "tell me exactly what you did. I didn't just watch you burn Julie's wedding dress while saying she's not good enough for our family," Walter said firmly. Hannah's face changed right away. "Sweetheart, you don't understand," she said quickly. "I was protecting you. This girl has been after your money from the start. I was just testing her character." "Stop," Walter cut her off. "Stop lying. I heard everything. He turned to me, his eyes soft and full of regret. Julie, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she would do something like this. I carefully stepped over the burned pieces of my dress and walked toward him. It's just a dress, I said, even though we both knew it meant much more than that. But your mother just showed what she really thinks of me, and of us, in front of everyone we know. Walter took my hands, ignoring his mother's desperate protests. What do you want to do, Julie? He asked quietly. It's your choice. Before I could answer, Mr. James appeared behind Walter. His face was hard and serious. Hannah, what have you done? He asked, his voice low but sharp. Kyle, please, Hannah begged. You know the Hines would be a much better match. Their family has been part of Indianapolis's high society for generations. She glanced at me with a sneer. Unlike Julie, who only has hard work and determination. Mr. James shook his head, looking disgusted. You've gone too far this time. Meanwhile, my phone kept buzzing with new notifications. I glanced down and saw messages pouring in from guests who were watching everything live. The venue coordinator stood nervously in the doorway. Miss Powell, she said carefully, the guests are asking what's happening. Should we make an announcement? I looked once more at the burned remains of my dress, then at my bridesmaids standing in their lavender dresses. A new idea began to form in my mind, a way to turn Hannah's sabotage into something even better. Tell them there's been a change of plans, I said. But the ceremony will still happen in 30 minutes. Hannah laughed meanly. In what? Your underwear? You can't possibly go through with this. In my backup dress, I said with a smile. I spoke calmly, cutting her off. The room went completely silent. Walter looked at me, confused. You have a backup dress? He asked. I didn't, of course. But working for 7 months with difficult clients at the advertising agency had taught me one thing. Always have a backup plan. I turned to my bridesmaid. Isabella, remember that photo shoot we did for Indianapolis Bride last month? Call Judy and ask if her sample dress is still there. Isabella's eyes lit up in understanding. The ivory dress with the lace on top? It should fit you perfectly. Walter's father stepped forward, pulling out his phone. I'll have my driver pick it up right now. Where is it? While they made plans to get the dress, I turned back to Hannah. She stood there, frozen, watching her whole plan fall apart. You really thought burning a dress would stop this wedding? After everything Walter and I have been through? I said. But everyone's watching, Hannah hissed, pointing at my phone. They all saw what happened. Yes, I said, nodding. They saw. And now they'll see what happens next. I turned to the camera, knowing all the guests were still watching the live stream. To everyone waiting, I said. Thank you for your patience. The ceremony will be a little delayed, but love always finds a way, even when someone tries to burn it down. A loud cheer came through the phone speaker. The guests at the ceremony were showing their support. Walter squeezed my hand, his face full of pride. Mom, he said firmly, you need to leave. Dad will take you home. You're no longer welcome at our wedding. Hannah's face twisted in anger. You would choose her over your own mother? After everything I've done for you? After what you did today? Walter said, keeping his voice calm. Absolutely. The next 30 minutes were a blur of activity. Mr. James firmly asked security to escort Hannah out of the building, even though he looked sad about it. Judy from Indianapolis Bride arrived quickly, with not 1, but 4 beautiful sample dresses. The bridal suite turned into a mini fashion show, with my bridesmaids, the venue coordinator, and even a few kind guests helping out. This one, Abigail said, holding up a gorgeous ivory dress with delicate lace. It's perfect for you, and we can get it ready fast. The venue seamstress, who was originally there just for small fixes, worked fast with safety pins and quick stitches, doing an amazing job. Meanwhile, Walter had gone back to the ceremony area to talk to the guests in person. Someone had moved the live stream camera to show the altar, and now everyone could see that, no matter what, the wedding was still on. I could hear Walter speaking. Today didn't start the way any of us expected, he said, his voice strong and calm. But Julie and I have always believed that it's not the perfect moments that make a marriage work. It's how you face the imperfect ones together." Everyone clapped after he spoke. I smiled as Isabella adjusted the borrowed veil on my head. "There," she said, stepping back to admire me. "You look absolutely beautiful." The dress wasn't the one I had planned to wear when I became Mrs. Walter James. But when I looked in the mirror, I realized it was just right. It was simpler, more elegant, and somehow stronger, just like me. It showed that I could adjust to anything instead of giving up. Mr. James knocked gently before walking in. His eyes widened when he saw me. "Julie, you look beautiful," he said. Then he paused, looking upset. "I want to apologize for Hannah. What she did was unforgivable." "You don't need to apologize for her, Mr. James," I said kindly. "You didn't burn my dress." He gave a grateful nod. "Walter sent me to tell you that everyone's ready when you are," he said. Then he smiled a little. "Oh, and your boss from the agency is here too. He's recording everything for what he calls the biggest viral wedding marketing story Indianapolis has ever seen." I laughed. Trust Zachary to turn even a disaster into a promotion. Working in advertising had taught me that the best stories often come from surviving the unexpected. The venue coordinator appeared at the door. "We're ready when you are, Miss Powell," she said. "The musicians are prepared, and we've adjusted the lights to match your new dress." "Wait," I said as an idea popped into my head. "The live stream is still running, right?" When she said yes, I made a quick decision. "Can we show the live stream in the ceremony space for a few more minutes? I want everyone to see us walking from here, not just see me appear at the altar." 15 minutes later, my bridesmaids and I were walking down the garden path toward the ceremony. Every step was being shown live to the guests inside. It wasn't a usual bridal entrance, but it was something better. It was a message. No angry mother-in-law, no fire, nothing could stop this wedding. As we got closer to the doors, I could hear the applause growing louder. Walter stood just inside, his whole face lighting up when he saw me. "Ready to get married?" he asked with a big smile. He took my hand and asked, "Ready?" "More ready than ever," I said, squeezing his fingers. The ceremony that followed wasn't the one we had practiced, but it felt more real than anything we could have planned. As I walked down the aisle in my borrowed dress, the guests stood up and clapped instead of staying quiet like they normally do. Their faces didn't just show the usual wedding happiness, they showed something stronger: respect, support, and pride. Walter's father stood proudly in the front row, sometimes looking over at the empty seat where Hannah should have been. His eyes met mine for a moment, full of silent support. Our officiant, Timothy Powell, no relation to me, even though we like to joke about it, spoke from the heart. "Dearly beloved," he began, "we are gathered here today not just to celebrate a wedding, but to celebrate love winning over hardship. Julie and Walter have already faced their first big challenge as a couple, and they handled it with strength, grace, and love for each other. When it was time to say our vows, Walter surprised me by adding his own words. "I promise to stand by you," he said, loud enough for everyone, even those watching the live stream, to hear. "Even if, no, especially if, someone from my own family tries to come between us." When it came time to exchange rings, Walter suddenly looked worried. The rings had been with his mother before the ceremony. But Mr. James quickly stepped forward and pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. "I made sure to get these earlier," he whispered with a small smile. "Just in case." After we were pronounced husband and wife, the room exploded with cheers and clapping. It felt like all the tension from earlier had finally lifted. As Walter and I walked back down the aisle, I spotted Zachary, my boss, recording the moment from the side. He gave me a thumbs up, a small gesture that somehow felt both professional and truly caring. The reception in the Grand Pavilion's ballroom afterward had a feeling unlike any other wedding. It wasn't just about fancy decorations or perfect speeches. It was about real love, real support, and overcoming the unexpected together. This wedding didn't feel like the others I had been to before. Instead of quiet talks and usual wedding traditions, there was a fun, strong energy in the air. Someone had quickly made a special Snapchat filter with a picture of a phoenix rising from the ashes, with our names written underneath. "Your wedding is trending on local social media," Abigail told me as we walked into the reception. People are using hashtags like rising from the ashes and can't burn love. Walter's college roommate, Aaron, who worked in public relations, came over holding his phone. The Indianapolis Plain dealer wants a statement, he said. Their lifestyle editor saw the live stream. Her niece was a guest. They're calling it Indianapolis's most resilient wedding. Walter kept his arm around me and replied, "Tell them we're just thankful for everyone's support, and that real commitment means facing challenges together, not running away from them." As the night went on, I noticed Mr. James talking seriously with different family members. You could tell by his hands and expressions that he was working hard to control the situation. During dinner, Walter's Aunt Marilyn leaned down and spoke quietly to us. "Kyle is very upset," she said. "Hannah was sent home, but now she's threatening to cut Walter out of the family business unless he listens to her. Kyle told her that after what happened today, she should be more worried about her own spot in the company." Under the table, Walter squeezed my hand. "Dad's always been the real strength of the family," he said. "Mom just never realized it because he let her think she was in charge." When we had our first dance, I noticed something else. Several tables at the front were empty. Those seats had been reserved for Hannah's country club friends, but they had quietly left after everything that happened. In their place, people from my advertising agency had moved forward, filling the room with real support and happiness. "Mr. James is doing a great job fixing things," Zachary said as he walked over with 2 glasses of champagne. "He's personally thanking everyone for staying and letting Hannah's friends know, without saying it out loud, that they won't be missed." Walter nodded, watching his father move around the room, full of new respect for the man who had always quietly kept the family together. "I think this is the first time I've seen him stand up to her in front of everyone," Walter said quietly. After 28 years of marriage, today was his breaking point. The wedding photographer, who had originally been hired by Hannah, walked over carefully. "Mrs. James," she said, then smiled and corrected herself. "The younger Mrs. James. I've captured some beautiful moments today, but I wanted to ask about the dress incident. Some guests took photos. Would you like me to ask them to keep those private?" I looked at Walter before answering. "Actually," I said, "I think honesty is the best way to handle this. It's part of our story now." Almost at the same moment, my phone buzzed. I looked down to see a notification. A short video of Hannah setting my dress on fire had already been viewed more than 30,000 times on a local Indianapolis news page. The comments were full of support, with many people sharing their own stories about dealing with difficult in-laws. "You might not have planned it," Zachary said, scrolling through the comments, "but you've started something big. People are really connecting with the idea of standing strong against toxic family members." Just then, Walter's cousin Kayla came to our table. She looked a little embarrassed but determined. "I just want you both to know," she said, "not everyone in the family agrees with Aunt Hannah. Most of us think she crossed a line that can't be undone." "Thank you, Kayla," I said, feeling truly touched. "That really means a lot." Later, Walter received a text from his father. He read it quietly, then turned the phone so I could see it. It said, "Your mother has locked herself in the guest house. She's demanding that I choose between her and that girl. I told her that after today, the choice is easy. We'll talk more when you're back from your honeymoon. Proud of you both. Dad, are you okay?" I asked Walter softly, searching his face for any signs of regret. "I'm better than okay," he said, giving my hand a squeeze. "For years, I watched Mom put down Dad, disrespect you, and control everyone around her. Today, everyone saw the real her. It's like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders." And so, the celebration went on, filled with relief, happiness, and a new sense of freedom. I noticed something amazing happening. Guests who had been stiff and formal at the start, mostly people from Hannah's side of the family and her social circle, were now relaxing. They were talking and laughing more naturally with my friends and family. Without Hannah's watchful eyes, the fake walls she had built between people were finally disappearing. The venue coordinator came over to me with a warm smile. "Mrs. James," she said, "there's something you should see." She led us to the entrance of the ballroom. There, Set up on an easel was a big photo frame filled with dozens of handwritten notes from the guests. At the top, it said, "Messages of love and strength for Julie and Walter." "Your bridesmaids organized this," the coordinator explained. "They asked guests to write messages of support after everything that happened." 1 week into our honeymoon in Portugal, Walter and I were still realizing just how much our wedding had touched people. We sat together on the private deck of our villa, looking at the crystal blue water, scrolling through our phones during our daily check-in with the outside world. "Dad says Mom's staying with her sister in Pittsburgh," Walter said, putting his phone down. "Apparently, Aunt Brittany is the only one who still believes her story, that she was just testing the dress fabric and everyone misunderstood." I smiled and adjusted my sun hat. Kind of hard to misunderstand someone yelling, "Now you can't marry my son," while holding a lighter, I said. The media in Indianapolis had fully picked up our story. What started as a wild wedding disaster had turned into a bigger conversation about dealing with toxic family members and building healthy relationships. Several women's magazines had even reached out, asking for interviews about setting boundaries with difficult in-laws. "Zachary says the agency got 4 new clients," I said, laughing as I showed Walter the message on my phone. "They're asking for the team with the wedding dress phoenix." Zachary had even asked if we'd consider joining a panel discussion about managing crises once we got back. Walter took my hand gently, brushing his thumb over my new wedding ring. "Only if you want to," he said softly. "We can keep everything private if you'd rather." I thought about all the messages we had received from other couples dealing with difficult families. "Maybe our experience can help others," I said. "It's not the way I planned to start our marriage, but it's real," Walter finished, smiling. "Just like us." 4 months after our wedding, Walter and I went to the James Family Foundation's annual gala, our first big public event since we came back from our honeymoon. This event used to be controlled by Hannah, but this time, Mr. James had completely changed it. "Nervous?" Walter asked as our car pulled up to the Indianapolis Art Museum. "A little," I admitted, smoothing my gown, a beautiful emerald green dress from Judy's boutique, the same shop that had turned our wedding story into a marketing campaign about resilience and second chances. Inside, everything felt different. Instead of the stiff, formal atmosphere from past years, there was now real warmth and kindness everywhere. Mr. James greeted us at the entrance, looking younger and much happier without Hannah's controlling presence. "There they are," he said, hugging both of us. "The couple who inspired our foundation's new program." He led us over to a display showing off the James Family Foundation's newest project, Rising Phoenix Grants, financial support for women rebuilding their lives after hard times. The foundation's logo had even been updated to include a small phoenix symbol. "We've already approved funding for 20 women," Mr. James said proudly. "Each one is getting a fresh start after facing tough situations." As we walked around and spoke to guests, I noticed something else. Many of the snobby social climbers from past galas were gone. Instead, there were real people here, people who truly cared about the foundation's work. "Mrs. James," a young woman said, walking up to me. She smiled and introduced herself as one of the grant winners. "Your wedding story gave me the courage to leave my toxic marriage," she said. "Now, I'm starting my own business." Later that night, Walter and I stepped outside onto the museum's terrace to get some quiet time. He checked his phone and read a message. "Mom's coming back to Indianapolis," he said, looking thoughtful. "Dad says she's agreed to counseling if she wants any chance to fix things." I squeezed his hand gently. "Whatever happens with your parents," I said, "we'll face it together, just like we did with the wedding." Walter smiled and pulled me close. "Some flames are meant to destroy," he said. "Others just show what's unbreakable."